did you start seeing your value to others straight away, or was it something that took time? What was it for you?
I think it's glimpses.
Yeah.
I think it starts with the passion, and then what we do is we look for evidence to back up that reason, because essentially we make those decisions emotionally first. And so we kind of hope that it's right. And then what we do is we look for evidence here and there. So on a logical level, because we've made, emotional level, and then we go, all right, am I on the right track? Have I jumped the gun here, or am I just full of it? Do you know what I mean?
Well, sometimes you're going to ask those questions because you don't know.
Yeah, I think so. So then we look for evidence, and for me it was really a case of it was two things. It was going back to those workshops where I had that initial aha moment.
Yeah.
So going back to those workshops, it's almost like you going back to where you first found that piece of gold, you know, and you go, okay, is there any more gold here?
Yeah, well, there may be.
Because there could be, and there, it stands to reason that there should be. So you go, all right, is there any more gold here? Yeah. Oh yeah, there's a couple of little specks here. All right, no worries. And so you really start to commit to that dig. Yeah. Just going with this metaphor here.
Yeah, do it.
And so you really start to commit to that dig, and you invest in more tools and all that kind of jazz to make to make that dig even more successful. And so for me, my dig was going back to that workshop space as a trainer.
Yeah.
And initially what happened was that I played by the rules of the workshop to start off with. Yes. Which is always good. And so you should.
Well, you get to learn the rules to break them.
Exactly right.
You?
Exactly right.
Yeah.
And I will get to that because it was a really important moment, and we're getting to that. So I learned the rules of how do I apply this new coaching thing to this whole theatrical world of bringing out elements of our character into a space, through a person and into a space.
Yeah.
How do I, bring those two things together? So, yes, I learned to play by the rules, and then there was that moment where, and it's, I'm going to tell you a moment that happened. It was, I love it. I love talking about this one. There was this girl who I was working with, and one of the mentors in that training, she came up to me and she said, I want you to work with this person. She's very quiet, very timid, and she's just finding it hard to be in the space in front of people.
Yeah.
I said, okay, no worries. I got this. And I decided that this was a time that I'm going to bring out the guns. I've got my Batman tool belt. Yeah. And there's some stuff that I had there that I used when I was a director. And we were doing Shakespeare plays, right?
Yep.
So,
yep.
You really get a chance to be quite creative and just out of the box.
Yeah, yeah.
So my style as a director is very, very collaborative. And so for me as a trainer, it's exactly the same thing. I believe that crossover was really important. So this girl, she's standing in front of us. We had this, semicircle group.
Yeah.
And she's standing in front of us feeling very confronted. And she's not a big girl either. So she's slight in frame and, petite, I think is the word.
Yeah.
And so it's very easy for her to be overwhelmed, because pretty much everyone in the world's taller than her, right?
Yeah.
So I used that for, to her advantage eventually.
Yeah.
So she started to talk, and she's quite timid, and I stood up in front of her. I got right up in front of her face. Like I'm, even closer than this. We were like right like that.
Yeah.
Just had to do that for effect. I got right up in front of her face, and she started to back away. I said, no, you are not backing away. You are standing right here, toe to toe. I think our toes were touching, our shoes were touching. And I said, you are not backing away one bit. you are going to stand here and you're going to take the space. But I said, it's not. I said, that's just the beginning of it. I said, what we're going to do now is I'm going to talk over you while you're trying to deliver your talk. And I've got people behind me, the people in the semicircle. They're freaking out.
Yeah.
Because they're like, you know...
I'm next.
Well, that and what the hell's this guy doing?
Yeah.
You know, because they're seeing everyone else in the room and it's all lovely, you know, they've got their folders and people are ticking away, just going, oh, this is great, and oh, look, here's Youarn just going hardcore in your face. Yeah. Right, let's just put that folder back down there. Here's Youarn getting all hardcore in her face. Yeah. Yeah, and they're probably thinking, oh, you know, I'm next, and but the whole point of this was, and I'll get to the effect in a sec, because that was the amazing thing. The whole point of it was that I was willing to do everything that I had to do to help her get to where she wanted to be and where she needed to be. Yeah,
but she wouldn't have even been able to see that potential within her. She may have always known that maybe she did have something, but you went over and beyond seeing what she could even possibly imagine for herself.
Well, I had to.
And that's the thing. Yeah. That's your why you're so successful in your business, because you see the results that your clients really want without even your clients even voicing it yet.
It's even better than that.
Is it?
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty good.
It is, by the way. No, it really is. But it's even better than that. Yeah. It's about... For me, it's about me already seeing their potential before they are even aware of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Because if I'm aware of their potential and they're not, well, all I've got to do is just put them in a situation where they can experience what I already see, and then they go, oh, right. I
could have done that the whole time.
Well, yeah, because now they've got a new frame of reference. They've got a new understanding.
Yeah,
they're like, I did that? Well, yeah, dude.
You did that. You did.
Yeah. So here's what happened, because we cannot
leave
go
it there. That's a
without the punchline.
Yeah.
So I was in her face, right? I was in her face, and there was no escape. When she tried to back away, I held onto her shoulders, you know, and just got her standing there, and then I put my hands by my side. She got to a point where and you could see the frustration building in her, and she started to hold the ground. Yeah. And she physically pushed me over.
Did she?
She physically pushed me. I almost fell over. That's okay. I got good balance. But she physically pushed me over. And what happened as a result of that, you could just see that her physiology completely changed. She, as I said, she was holding the ground. She had purpose. Her voice was just out there. It was all completely worth it, and it was all completely predictable, because I had to put her in a place where there were no other options. I essentially put her... Now, every situation is different, and that, you know, to do that with someone else may not be appropriate.
Yeah, because everyone's different.
Exactly right. Yeah. But for her, that moment, she needed to be in fight or flight. She tried flight, didn't work. So she had only one other option, that was to fight. Yeah. Because my mission was to get her to own the space. And when you fight, that's what you're doing. You're fighting for space. Yeah. So she fought for space and she won. Yay. And then I was able to sit down eventually once I picked myself up from the ground. And it was just a dream to watch after that. She had purpose. It was just... Here's what I loved about that more than anything else, other than the success that she was able to have in that moment,
of course,
that by following my instinct, by being in the moment, by being completely curious, and by being willing to be so wrong, because that could have gone
horribly wrong.
That could have gone pear-shaped. She could have just gone right off, stormed out.
Which has actually happened in those trainings, which we've both witnessed, you know.
Yep. So she could have done that.
Our group, but yeah.
But luckily, I also know how to, I guess, marry that tenderness with fierceness as well, because it's really important to have that balance. So she knew that I was there for her, yet at the same time she also knew that I was there, part of that was there to challenge her. Yeah. And it's one of my favourite achievements.
How did she come out of it afterwards?
Other than the big hugs. What was her
response? There would have been lots of hugs, there would have been lots of tears.
Yeah, she was stoked, and you could really see that it was like a switch had flipped. And interestingly enough, I've kept track of her progress since then, and she now, get this, she now runs meetup groups that has, I think, anywhere between 80 and 100 people on a regular basis.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Now that's all her. That is all her.
Yeah.
But
you just flicked the switch.
It was just
helped her to flick the switch.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah.
That's
phenomenal.
Isn't that what it's all about?
That is what it's all about. Yeah. Absolutely. That is what it's all about.
So when did you realise the value? When I could make people, push me over and and then start meetup groups.
Yeah. To sum it up in a nutshell.